All right, let's talk about something I think we've all felt. That feeling of running around all day, totally drained, only to look back and think, what did I actually do today? Well, we're going to pull back the curtain on the hidden system that makes us feel that way. The system that actually rewards being busy more than being productive. And it really all starts with this kind of uncomfortable truth, doesn't it? We've all seen it. This culture where looking like you're working hard, where the performance of work somehow becomes more important than, the actual work. But why? Why does that happen? Our first instinct is to point fingers. We think, oh, it must be certain people. They're lazy, or they're just not good at their jobs, or they're just playing the game. We see it as a flaw in the person. But what if that's not the real story at all? See, it's not nearly that simple. Here's how we're going to break it down. First, we'll look at that obvious but wrong answer. Then we'll get into the real reason, busyness as a social signal. After that, we'll see the feedback loop that locks this whole thing in place. And finally, we'll figure out why this system is so darn good at protecting itself.
Okay, so let's start where pretty much every organization starts, by treating this like it's a people problem.
When we see a ton of activity but not a lot of results, the easiest, most straightforward conclusion is that the person is the problem, right? We just assume it's a lack of motivation, or maybe they don't have the right skills, or a poor work ethic. And what's so interesting here is how we connect these dots all wrong. We see the behaviors on the right, the late night emails, the calendar packed with meetings, and we immediately filter them through the assumptions on the left. We either think, wow, what a hard worker, or if we know the results aren't there, we think, they're just spinning their wheels to hide that they're incompetent. Either way, our focus is squarely on that person's character. And this is the pivot. This is the big question. What if we're all looking in the wrong direction? What if these behaviors aren't really individual choices, but are actually a totally rational response to the environment they're in? And that brings us to the hidden system. The real answer isn't about people being flawed. It's about a very basic human need. How do you show people you're valuable when your value is almost impossible to see? So let's put a name on it: performative busyness. And get this, it's not just about being busy. It's about making sure other people see that you're busy. It's a performance, and it's designed to send a very clear message. I'm valuable, I'm committed. So why is this performance even necessary? Well, it's because for so much of the work we do today, the most valuable stuff is completely invisible. You can't see someone thinking hard about a complex problem. You can't watch the aha moment that cracks a huge issue. The real work happens quietly inside our heads. At the exact same time, we're all human. We are wired with this really deep need to feel psychologically safe. We need to know that we belong, that what we do matters, and that our job is secure. And that's not a weakness. That's just a fundamental part of being human. So you see the clash, right? Your most important work is invisible, but your basic human need for security demands that you make your value visible. So what do? You find a substitute. You find a proxy, something you can show people. And this is why busyness becomes the default choice. It is hands down the easiest, most obvious signal that you're trying hard and that you're committed. Firing off an email at 10 p.m., a calendar that's a wall of meetings, always sighing about your workload, these are all very visible signs of effort. They might have nothing to do with results, but man, are they visible. So, okay, one person decides to signal their value by looking busy. But how does that turn into an entire company culture? Well, it happens through a really powerful feedback loop. It all starts with that uncertainty. An employee feels like their real work isn't getting noticed, so they start performing busyness. Now, step 3 is the absolute key. Management, who also has a hard time measuring invisible work, sees this visible effort and rewards it. Maybe it's just praise, like, wow, look how dedicated Sarah is. Or maybe it's even a promotion. Well, everyone else sees this. They see that the signal got rewarded, not necessarily the result. So what's the most logical thing for them to do? They copy it. And just like that, the cycle starts. And pretty soon, it's just the way things are done. And this is the end result. The whole incentive structure has been quietly rewired. The system is no longer set up to get great results. It's set up to recognize and reward the appearance of hard work. So if everyone can kind of feel that this isn't working, that it's inefficient, why doesn't it just stop? Why can't a smart leader just step in and say, hey everyone, let's focus on results, not busyness? Well, it's because this system is incredibly good at protecting itself. Here's the trap. what's best for the group as a whole, just focusing on results, is actually a massive personal risk for any one individual. To be the one person who stops performing busyness, that's a huge gamble. And this table just lays it out so clearly. Look at it from an employee's perspective. If you stick with looking busy, your personal risk is low. You're seen as committed, a hard worker. But if you stop and just quietly get great work done, you risk being seen as a slacker or not a team player. And it's the same thing for a manager. A team that looks busy justifies its budget. A team that's quiet, even if they're killing it, can look disengaged, and that puts the manager's neck on the line. The incentives for everyone, top to bottom, are to keep the performance going. And that's the bottom line. Good intentions fail because the system punishes anyone who steps out of line. The immediate personal risk of looking like you aren't busy is just so much stronger than the long-term collective benefit of a more productive company. Which leaves us here. That constant pressure to look busy, the endless meetings, the performative exhaustion, it's not a mistake. It's not a bug in the system. It's the system working exactly as it was designed to. It's a feature created to solve a very human problem. How to manage uncertainty by making invisible value visible. And now at least you know why it's happening.